So here's a sitch on the ATL Boxscore today. We are talking all things NFL draft because it's Football Friday here, and we have Ab Stanley from the 3-point conversion joining us, talking about the biggest losers of the night, the biggest winners, and what the heck are the Falcons doing. Also, we get into DeAndre Baker and where he landed. That is all today on today's show on Football Friday here at the ATL Boxscore, Atlanta's newest sports podcast. And again, you're listening to Football Friday. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATL Boxscore as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATL Boxscore, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown, near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there, and there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them, but Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Well, welcome back to another edition of the ATL Boxscore podcast, Atlanta's newest podcast, and this is our first ever show about the NFL draft. I always enjoy talking about the NFL draft for some reason. I don't know, I guess because I'm really into college football, and I kind of get to see like the end of the tunnel, sort of, or we're the next step in the career of a lot of these college football players. Also, too, it's always a lot of drama though when the Falcons pick, and that was still the case last night. I don't think a lot of the fan base is really happy where the Falcons at right now on their draft board, but we do have Ab Stanley from the 3-point conversion, joining us today. We're going to talk more about that and that conversation. But first, I have Steve Choi joining me. And Steve, how are you doing today, man?
Doing well. It's Friday. It's Dubs Friday.
Ready to see those Dubs get a victory. And by the way, this is, before we get into it, this is Football Friday, a show we talk just about football. But we're going to have our non-football minute.
Nice.
And where we just talk about what's going on since we're not in season right now. So with our non-football minute, Dubs have a big night tonight.
Big time, absolutely. If the Dubs take care of business, they'll be good to go. If they don't, then it's another difficult path to another championship. But hey, that's why these things are earned.
Right. And in case you're wondering, we are a podcast that just talks about Atlanta sports. But since the Hawks are not in the playoffs right now, that they're on the golf course, probably probably at Ansley Golf Course, or I can't think of the other one. What's the other golf course that's north of us?
East
Lake.
Yeah.
Yes, East Lake.
Nice.
Excuse me. Yes, East Lake Golf Course. I'm just doing this off the dome, people. So our Atlanta Hawks are either at Ansley Golf Course right now, which I know Aaron Murray spends a lot of time at, or East Lake Golf Course. So we got to talk about a team that's in the playoffs, and since that's still relevant, I know a lot of Atlanta sports radio stations are talking about the NBA playoffs, even though our Atlanta Hawks are not in it. So we got to kind of choose a team, and since Steve's a Dubs fan from the Bay.
That's right.
From the Bay to the A.
I had a friend who was like, are you going to watch the W's? I was like, what?
The W's?
I was like, what? The W's?
That's like if George W. Bush bought a team, I could see them naming them that.
Well, I saw somebody wear a Warrior shirt recently, and I was like, oh, nice shirt. And she's like, oh, yeah, I just liked the way it looked. I was like, oh, okay. Good job.
Dun, dun, dun.
Good job. The W's.
The W's.
The W Hotel.
Right.
It's the Dubs.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight, man. Let's do it.
You guys always do better on ESPN than you do on TNT. I don't know what that is.
I think so. I don't know. I think because Mark Jackson was a former Dubs coach.
Gotcha. And I think they kind of fuel the criticism that they get a lot from Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, yeah. Stephen A. Smith's always got something to say. I wish I can go back in time and see what Stephen A. Smith did when he was growing up.
I mean, he's super critical around the board, so.
Yeah, I'm not really. Stephen A. Smith, with all due respect, I'm sure you have put in your dues. But see, that's the thing about journalism, man. I mean, yeah, you have a talent to write and communicate and ask questions, but when you get to a Stephen A. Smith level where you've just become a caricature of yourself and you got to go out and put on a show.
He just got to the level that he was at just because he was critical all the time.
Well, yeah. So
there's a part of the population that loves that voice.
Yeah, I'm being critical too. So hey, Stephen A. Smith, think about me when you're putting on your makeup, getting ready for that show.
Oh boy. Is this gonna? Man, I quit a heck of a day to quit smoking. Is this going to be a? Is this going to be? Are you? Well, hold on. Let me rephrase this question that I'm throwing out there. Are you satisfied with an ugly win tonight?
I mean, I don't think anybody's ever satisfied with an ugly win. A win is a win. So in terms of would I be satisfied? Yeah, I take it. What do I want to see? I want to see total domination. If it was possible, I'd want to see 100-0. But that's impossible. So
your stunner shades want to see 100-0.
I got my stunner shades on.
So okay, well, that was our non-football minute. Now we're about to get into Football Friday, and with the NFL draft and coming into work today. And by the way, too, actually, before we get into draft talk, because that's pretty much going to dominate the conversation, I'll say this at the end of the show, too. If you know, because I don't know, and maybe this is where we need a little bit more coverage with our Georgia Tech stuff, but if you know if Georgia Tech's spring game, which is tonight, which I think is a good idea to have it on Friday night, if you know if it's going to be on TV, if you could put that in the comments section, that would be extremely helpful just for me. Because I'm extremely curious right now, and I'm not trying to throw shade, or I'm not trying to be a hater or anything like that. But if you know that Georgia Tech's spring game, which is tonight, Jeff Collins' unveiling of what the Jeff Collins era is going to look like, if you know it's going to be on TV, put that in the comment section. Put what channel it's going to be on, because that would be extremely helpful for me. That would be a way that you could help me out, the listening audience. And Steve, you just learned what a spring game was this past week.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
And you watched G-Day with me.
Looks like Georgia won.
Yeah, the red team. Literally, because you know what's on the line for this for G-Day in particular?
What's that?
What they're going to eat. The winning team. Well, let's start with the lose. The losing team gets beans and weenies.
Okay.
I mean, literally, like beans and small hot dogs.
And weenies. Okay, cool.
The winning team, and this has been a tradition in Georgia for a long, long time. This is what I love being around here, seeing these underlying traditions that aren't really talked about too much. But this has been a tradition for a while. The winning team gets to eat, from what it looked like from the video, a whole smorgasbord of stuff. They get steak, they get shrimp, the whole 9 yards of what a nice buffet meal looks like.
Right.
So that's what's on the line. That's what, and the red team won, and the black team had to eat beans and weenies.
There you go.
So let's go red for the dogs. Coming in today, I had ESPN on. They were talking about the draft, and you said something interesting to me. Fill in the listening audience what you told me today.
That who watches the NFL draft?
Apparently, a lot of people do.
And oh, by the way,
apparently a whole shutdown mile-long street in Nashville.
I saw that. I was kind of so here's my thing. All right.
What's the thing, Steven?
Here's the thing.
What's the thing? What's the thing, Steven?
Here's the thing. I get it. It's just it's like Valentine's Day. It's a trumped up reason for people to sell things and commercialize an event that really doesn't really do much, because especially like the NFL draft, the NBA draft to me is a little bit more sensational, because that first round of picks, particularly the lottery picks, are probably players that are going to be household names for years to come. Okay?
Right away.
Right. Now, these guys in the NFL draft, it's always hit and miss. You never know, and who's taken, and it's dependent on what their needs are. So it's not like the first 10 quarterbacks are being taken, Anyway, with that being said, I was surprised to see how many people watch, how big of an event this is. Was this the first time it's been televised? No, right?
No. This has been televised for a long, long time. Over 20 years. If you know that, put that in the comment section too. How long's the NFL draft been televised? So I think where we're at right now is that people just have a craving for football. And obviously the AFF didn't really satisfy that craving. So it's kind of like football's kind of a long way off. Since we're in May, I mean, it's
Yeah.
I mean,
September is when we start getting really into
September's college. Yeah, September. Yeah. So that's like 6-7 months away right now.
Right.
So it's kind of one of these things where we've been deprived. Well, I guess deprived would be a word for some fans who are fanatical. It just hasn't been on, and I think people live for moments like they live for moments like the draft,
Right.
where it's like, oh, we're back to talking about football again.
Right.
Now this sounds like intriguing.
Exactly.
I remember back in the day when John Gruden was an analyst, he talked about when Sammy Watkins from Clemson got drafted to Buffalo.
Right.
And he was just like, oh, that makes sense because New England just stacked up on corners in free agency. So it's like that type of like talk, like that gets you going.
Right.
That got me in the door this morning.
There you go.
That I got a break to talk about all this basketball stuff and seeing the Braves getting swept by a random team in Ohio to, man, what is Thomas Dimitroff smoking?
No idea.
Exactly. Granted, I'm not trying to throw too much shade at these guys, but it's like, it's kind of like, really? I would like to see how these guys develop. I'm not giving up on them totally, but still.
Yeah. No. I mean, again, but then the other thing I said to you.
What's the other thing?
So I started the day off by saying, who watches the NFL draft, right? And then
I did.
And then shortly after I go, but did you see who the Niners picked?
Oh yeah, you did do that.
Yeah, man. Bosa, man. He's gonna be tearing off those heads.
Well, it's kind of like this Avengers movie that's coming out.
How so?
Just from the standpoint, I'm pretty sure that it's like Star Wars fans really don't want to watch it.
Right.
But they see all these memes and stuff, and then they're just like, oh, let me just watch this just to watch this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm mildly interested. I mean, I hear it's a good movie. I mean, sometimes you could just watch a movie just for the special effects and really be in awe of something and not necessarily be a fan. I would be a super hater if I was going to say, oh, man, those Marvel movies suck. They're really good. Did I ever pick up a Thor comic book as a kid? No. Do I think that the old school Captain America uniform was kind of corny with the feathers on his boots? Yeah. Do I think Spider-Man's the only really cool character in the Marvel universe?
Do I think that all these movies have a little bit of camp and corn to them? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Am I going to be watching this movie? You better believe it.
Kind of like your Niners pick. Oh, we got Joey Bosa.
Bosa. Can't wait.
No, that might be a guy you might not see till play to a year. I mean, I don't know what your linebacking core looks like, but that might be a guy you might see play in year 3.
Exactly. I don't know.
I mean, it depends on the system. It depends, honestly, on the team's needs. It depends. Like this guy that they drafted for the Falcons out of Boston College.
That's right.
Read the paper this morning. They say he might not even start in his first year.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, they need guys to play on the offensive line right now. Maybe this is the fan coming out or anything, but that's how I see it.
Hey, it's gonna be cool, man. I can't wait. I'm ready to do this.
Right, fun times.
I'm ready for tonight.
Tonight with the Dubs.
Tonight.
So,
Dubs.
Thank you for that musical rendition. So next, we're just going to get right into it. We're 15 minutes in, probably 20-something minutes in, actually, at this point. And we're going to have Ab Stanley on the show today from the three-point conversion. But before we get into that, just kind of, I guess, housekeeping notes, if you want to say. I'm Alex Berger, by the way. This is Steve Choi. I always forget to, introduce myself. And
Hypey.
So anyways, if you listen to our advertisement at the beginning of the show, if you use promo code Alex on a 12-month deal, you get 15% off your purchase if it's a full-time office or a dedicated desk or co-working deal. So take advantage of that while it lasts. Also, too, this show really runs on you guys, and it's about the audience that I have, because my audience is unique in a way that it's like, you don't have to listen to me. I'm not on TV. I'm not on radio or anything like that. You chose to listen to this podcast, and we definitely appreciate your listenership. So if you could do us a favor, especially if you checked out this podcast a couple of times, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to hear more about the ATL Boxscore podcast. Be sure to do that, and comment in the comment section, because we want to hear from you. Definitely want to hear, because it would actually help me out to know, is Georgia Tech going to be on TV tonight for their spring game? And do you remember what the other one was?
I don't. Sorry.
Okay.
Talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah, I'm not paying attention.
I just know that the Dubs are playing tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, put that or what are your thoughts about the draft? Put that in the comment section. Or yeah.
I got a question for you.
What's that?
What do you think about? Or are you going to talk about this later with Ab, right?
I do talk about this.
Oh, my bad. Say that for Ab. My question, I guess, was is Murray the real deal?
Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
I would like to see how he plays out. I think where they are right now with Arizona, because with the notion that they're going to trade away Josh Rosen because they can't afford both salaries. I think probably the first year he might get destroyed in the pocket because they don't have a good offensive line. But at the same time, it was fun to watch him at Oklahoma, and I hope it's just as fun. Like you're probably in Arizona, you're probably going to see the closest thing you could see to a spread offense in the NFL, which I think it'd be cool, and it's probably going to pave the way. But at the same time, it's kind of just like, are you going to have the offensive line? Are you going to have the talent around it? Or is just – because I don't think Kyler Murray can do it on his own.
Gotcha.
And I think we're going to find out how human Kyler Murray looks when it comes to these first couple of years. I think these first couple of years are probably going to be rough for him just because they don't have all the pieces in place, and they're playing they're paying a pretty ticket just to have him.
Right.
I mean, this is the thing about this is one of the things too I love about college is that you can have just the stack of talent together,
right?
And you don't have to pay for it.
There you go.
There's no spending cap because they're all recruited and they're all volunteered on their own will to do that. I think that's a cool thing about college sports, but when it comes to paying players and what players are worth, that's kind of a tricky thing to figure out unless you're the New York Yankees who can just pay for anyone.
Or the LA Dodgers.
Or the LA Dodgers.
Yeah.
Or the Golden State Warriors.
No. They have a salary cap for.
Oh,
NBA.
they have a salary cap.
They do.
But they found ways to make to have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant.
Did you realize that Steph Curry until a couple years ago was still on a very low contract because he had there was questions surrounding the durability of his ankle. So he stepped out on faith and signed, even after his rookie contract, signed a very low-paying contract to stay with the Warriors because he believed that he could prove them wrong or prove them right, and then he got his payday. That was one of the reasons why they were able to get a lot of these other teams. So,
other guys, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know.
I mean, Steph's a team guy, and that's a rarity.
And that's my biggest point is anybody who questions the Dubs. I know this is an Atlanta thing, but since I'm in Atlanta, it counts. Anyways, they're a great team. Go Dubs. See you later. and you guys have a great weekend.
All right. Well, here is my conversation from Ab Stanley, who writes for the 3-point conversion, does a lot of their NFL stuff. Here's my conversation with Ab Stanley. Now we just want to welcome to the ATL Boxscore to the conversation, Mr. Ab Stanley. Ab, how are you doing this morning? Heard you had a late night because of this NFL draft.
Yeah, the first round, Alex, it always goes into the wee hours of the morning, and usually at some sort of establishment, you're probably not going to leave right away. So, how you doing today, Alex?
I'm good. Glad today we get to talk about the NFL draft. I feel like at this time in like sports, this for some reason, I guess for me just being a guy who loves football, like this is always exciting to talk about because especially with this draft too. I mean, there's a lot of controversy with this draft. What did you think of the first round last night?
Yeah, when college students, athletes, they reach a certain level and they get to their peak, it shocks me that they get up there, the parents are up there, and they get drafted, and boy, it's like the smorgasbord of emotions run through them. You see people crying, and other dudes look like they're ready to go tomorrow, bust through a wall to play for their new teams. It's always exciting to see young men fulfill their dreams to get to the NFL. It was an eventful first round. Some because of the picks that were made, some because of where the picks were made. I guess where everybody wants to start is at the top, so let's start at the top.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna get into that, and I literally thought about these questions when I woke up this morning. But
yeah.
Kyler Murray, what's your thought about that? Because a lot of people right now think it should have been Dwayne Haskins. But when you look at it, it seems like though Kyler Murray's gonna fit this system that Kliff Kingsbury wants to run in Arizona, and to me it has the potential that I think that this might be fun to watch if they can get it right one of these years.
Well, here's what's crazy about Arizona. They want you to believe that last year didn't happen. They pulled out their little Men in Black tool. And, they press the button, and they want the fans, they want the media, they want everybody to act like last year didn't happen. They drafted Josh Rosen. They fired their head coach Wilkes. They had the head coach, his name eludes me, and they fired him after 1 year. And now they want to start all over again. So they hired Kingsbury to be their head coach, and they want a quarterback to fit the system. Here's the real problem, right? One, we're not going to get Kyler Murray in year one. And if we do, he'll probably run into the same sort of problems that Josh Rosen ran into last year. I don't understand how the Cardinals, as a franchise, believe that they're just going to draft a new quarterback and not fix, like, the offensive line structurally and get some more weapons around a quarterback for him to succeed. If you watch the Cleveland Browns last year, okay, the year before, they really didn't do anything. But their offensive line was already pretty substantial. They already had good skill position players, running backs, wide receivers. And then they drafted Baker Mayfield with the hopes of just adding one or two more pieces. Now, I don't know what the Cardinals can do draft-wise. Of course, you always get cap casualties after the draft where teams are like, well, we don't want to keep this veteran. We drafted this guy. He could take his spot. But, I mean, how many offensive linemen are you going to get in that situation? And how many offensive linemen are they going to get in this draft? So I understand the thinking, new coach, new quarterback. That's fine, but you already drafted one last year. Wouldn't it have been a little bit more due diligence to see if you could have kept Josh Rosen, if Kingsbury could have worked with Josh Rosen, and then maybe you could have drafted an offensive lineman this year, moved down actually in this draft and acquired more draft picks. So overall, it's a great pick for Arizona. I just think it's a bad idea by the franchise.
Mm-hmm. What about this thought that was out there, and ESPN brought this up, that it's like Kliff Kingsbury, he just wants his guy, and he feels like Kyler Murray is his guy. And usually when you push the reset button, because that's pretty much what Arizona's doing, especially they made it noticeable last night that that's pretty much what they're doing. And you draft a quarterback, and then the next year you draft some skill players and some linemen. I mean, I'd be interested to see what type of team they're going to try to build tonight in the draft, or are you going to go after it in free agency?
Well, I think a couple of things hurt Arizona when it comes to building a team. The thing is, they wanted Murray, so they couldn't trade the pick down and acquire more picks. They still have Rosen. They can't seem to flip him to acquire more picks, and that would have been another way for them to improve their roster. I believe they were trying to get another first-round pick for Rosen. No team in their right mind would do that. But if they could acquire a second-round pick, another third-round pick, you can get starters in a draft in the round two. If Arizona has 2 second-round picks and, 2 of them are linemen, those could actually be starters for the next 10 years. I'm not saying that's what they should do, but these are the ways that they can improve their team. So that type of stuff has hindered them. The other thing is that the market for trading for a quarterback was very bare. The Dolphins had a pick last night where they could have very well drafted Dwayne Haskins or another one of the quarterbacks, and they bypassed it. Washington got their quarterback. Jacksonville has seemingly gotten their quarterback in free agency. So the teams that were looking for a quarterback, the Giants, the Miami, and the other team, Washington, they've pretty much addressed what they were going to do at quarterback last night. So you just talk that the Dolphins might be willing to give up a third-round pick for Rosen. But right now, the way how the Dolphins drafted last night, it looks like their plan is to build up a defense this year and then do whatever they can to scramble for one of the top 2 picks next year to either get a Herbert or Tuglavaiola from Alabama. So I don't know if the plan overall was a good plan. That's what I meant when I said I just don't like the move by the franchise.
Gotcha.
To me, they could have kept it more under wraps that they were even thinking about Murray at first. Like a lot of other teams threw smoke screens, and it worked. Arizona pretty much made it known that they were going after a quarterback at one. That should have never happened, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is kind of changing the subject just a little bit. I know you dabble in college football. Do you feel like that this is just a coincidence that you had a quarterback at Oklahoma winning the Heisman Trophy, getting the first pick in the draft in back-to-back years, or is there just something in the water in Norman, Oklahoma?
Well, think about it. It happens at other schools at different positions. Penn State at linebacker, maybe Ohio State offensive line or defensive lineman, Alabama at running back. It's just basically you have a top program where the coaching recruits top level talent. There are guys sitting on Alabama's bench right now, and it happened this year in the draft. Quentin Williams, for instance, he was sitting on Alabama's bench last year. He didn't even get on the field, and then he starts this year, and he's projected as a generational talent at D-tackle. He's a guy who didn't even start till last year. These programs, they build, and they build depth too. They don't, the programs that are known for what they're known for, they don't have one guy. They have 2-3 guys. Oklahoma, they probably have another quarterback waiting in the wings right now that'll probably get drafted in a year or two. It's just like Clemson with Deshaun Watson, and then a year or two later you get Trevor Lawrence. Like these top-notch head coaches, they draft well and they draft for depth. So it's nowhere near a coincidence, I don't think. I just think that Riley on there in Oklahoma, he's figured out a way to let these quarterbacks know, like, listen, I'm going to run a pro-style offense. You're trying to go to the NFL. You're trying to succeed in college football. You come to my program. And it's the same with Saban when it comes to the skill position players. And it's the same in, historically built schools like Penn State through the linebackers and running backs that they have. So that's just great college coaching. And these college coaches, they'll have a plethora of first-round picks going forward.
Right, yeah, just good recruiting and good coaching too. Definitely, I definitely could see that you just have a lot of depth at other positions that other programs have, but it's just that quarterback is the position everyone wants to talk about. And when you go to Oklahoma, you have a chance to score like 1,000 points during your career.
Right.
So I want to ask you about this Daniel Jones, another quarterback that the second quarterback that was drafted that came off the board. What's your thoughts about that? Do you think that the Giants are trying just to replace or have a replacement when it comes down to replacing Eli Manning, kind of like what the Packers had with a plan when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, that they wanted a guy that they would just develop in the system for a while, and then when it was time for Brett Favre to go, that they had a backup in place. Do you think that they're trying to do the same type of thing in New York?
I think every quarterback drafted in the first round will sit this year, or maybe the word is should sit this year. The Giants made a terrible mistake, and it's not because they drafted Daniel Jones. If that's who they rated high and that's who they felt was a quarterback, well, you go ahead and draft him. There's ties to his head coach at Duke, David Cutcliffe, who I guess was Eli Manning's head coach in college. I think Peyton Manning's one of his position coaches, offensive coordinator in college. So there's ties to that, Pat Sherm, whatever. The problem with that pick, and here's the craziness about it. Yes, they want a quarterback to eventually replace Eli Manning, and I thought any one of the quarterbacks they would have drafted would have gone under the same program. You're going to sit, you're going to watch, and whatever. Despite what people think about Eli Manning, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He has won 2 Super Bowls with mediocre rosters through the years, and he has knowledge that only a 15, 16, 17-year veteran could attain playing football. So the plan for any one of the quarterbacks they drafted was definitely to sit down this year and then learn the system, be brought along slowly, and then probably next year be the starter. The reason why it's a terrible pick for the Giants is, why did you take Jones at 6? I'm sorry, but I didn't read too many draft boards where it was like, if you don't take Jones at 6, he wouldn't be there at 17. If the plan was not to take Haskins at 6, and the plan was to take Jones, if we noticed, Haskins fell all the way to 15, right? So if the plan wasn't to take the higher rated quarterback, then why did you choose 6 to take him? You could have gotten any number of defensive tackles, defensive backs at 6. You could have gotten Josh Allen. You could have gotten Ed Oliver to put right in the middle. Devin Bush at linebacker. Like, all of these guys, the Giants could have used. Even an offensive tackle at 6. Daniel Jones would have been there at 17. He would have been there waiting for you, waving for you with his lunch pail at 17. There was no real reason why the GM for the Giants, Gettleman, used that 6th pick on Daniel Jones. And the Giants fans are livid. Let me explain that to you right now. I know in the Atlanta market, I'm a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York. And, my Facebook timeline, my phone went off the hook from pick 5, right before the Giants pick, where people were calling me, is somebody going to trade up? Is somebody going to trade up for Haskins? Then Haskins was there at 6. And when pick 7 came up, my phone literally went on tilt because people were calling me. People were calling me and getting mad at me. Like, I made the pick for the Giants. Why did they take him at 6? Why did they wait till 17? Who's Daniel Jones? It's bedlam. It's bedlam in New York. I would love to listen to the sports talk radio stations up there right now because, the venom being spewed against. The whole city collectively wanted Dwayne Haskins. And then the guys who are smart enough to say, well, we already got this Jones kid. We got him. We're going to have him. They're mad because they took him at 6. They were like, well, why didn't we take him at 17? So the Giants, they provided a big boost of drama last night to the first round with that pick. And it's obviously the most surprising pick. And I think at that position, number 6, I think it was a terrible pick. I don't think the play is terrible. I just think the pick was.
Yeah. I totally agree with you about that. That it's kind of like, why?
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you said I dabble in college football. I've actually seen Daniel Jones play versus Georgia Tech, and I got to tell you, the first thing that came to my mind is when he got drafted by the Giants, I said, boy, I hope that media goes easy on him. Well, now, we know that's not going to happen in New York, but he just seems to be the type of guy that won't handle that media well. Now, of course, all these guys are new to the scene, so maybe he changes when he gets to the NFL. Maybe he's, but I know in that post-game little press conference, almost like he won the game and almost like frustrated to talk to the media. So that part about it, I really hope that he gets that part about it together because he's going to get a lot of media in New York.
I also need to fix that tie yesterday before he came on stage. But moving on, though, who do you think was the big winners, first of all, and who do you think were the big losers last night?
Well, the Giants, it seemed like they lost. After all that, I said, it probably seems like they lost. They still had a pretty good first round. I think when you pick up Dexter Lawrence at 17 and then moving back into the first round to get Baker, my cousin is a Giants fan, and he made a joke. He's saying, well, we just replaced the guys we traded away. And I was like, well, yeah, sort of. But even in that regard, Baker's a playmaker, and I'm shocked he dropped so far. Dexter Lawrence, you put that guy in the middle, and the New York fans are going to love Dexter Lawrence. Trust me. You put that guy right in the middle, and he knocks a few heads, and he hits a running back behind the line of scrimmage. That MetLife Stadium will erupt. I think the biggest winner, though, to be honest, is the Redskins. For Haskins to fall right into their lap at 15, they didn't have to move up to get him. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to call anybody. He fell right to their lap at 15. They wanted a quarterback to do something similar to the Giants with it. They've got Flacco and Toe now. They're just going to sit Haskins for the year, let him learn the system, and next year he's going to come in and light up the NFL. That's their plan, just like remember, it's a copycat league. So who's the most successful quarterback in the league right now? It's Tom Brady, okay, but he went through a similar system when he came out. But it's really Pat Mahomes, the league MVP. You're going to sit a guy for a year, and he yields great results. So everybody's going to copy off of Andy Reid. So the Redskins, they have their quarterback, and then they get back into the first round at 26, and they get Montez Sweat. So think about it. Not only do the Redskins get 2 players that will be impactful, one on offense, one on defense, but they got 2 guys that dropped in the draft. They got 2 guys that are coming in with a major chip on their shoulder. And with Sweat, he dropped way further than most pundits had him. And with Haskins, they kind of felt the drop coming before the draft. There was a lot of warning that Haskins might drop into the team, which is why I thought Miami would have taken him, but they obviously another plan. But so I think the biggest winner is the Redskins. I also like what the Raiders did with their 3 picks. I know there weren't 3 sexy picks, especially up at the top at 4 with the fellow, the end from Clemson. But man, if any team in the first round needed to draft a running back, it was the Raiders, right? Like, I mean, Marshawn Lynch was there the last 2 years, and I know he was there last year, but they didn't get any production at that running back position. Not like they were looking for. And, the kid from Alabama, Josh Jacobs, I mean, you plug him in right now. He's exactly the type of running back that John Gruden will love. And, they got their safety from Mississippi State, and they got their DN on a porous defense that they definitely needed. So I think those 2 teams, and I think a lot of other teams just made the right pick. Nick Bosa at 2 was the obvious pick for San Francisco. The Jets getting Quinnen Williams at 3 was really an obvious pick for them. I think Tampa Bay getting Devin White, that kind of threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. I mean, I know they need defenders, but I kind of thought they would go offensive linemen, move down. The Hawkinson pick for Detroit was very interesting, only because I thought the other tight end from Iowa was better. Noah Fant, that went 20th to the Broncos. The only reason I don't like the Hawkinson pick is the same reason I don't like the Jones pick is why did you take him at 8? There was seemingly no team in the next 3 or 4 picks that were going to take a tight end. So if you're Detroit, why didn't you move down for somebody trying to get up to maybe, let's say, draft an Ed Oliver at 8? You see, so some of these, a lot of these guys made a good pick, but I'd say the biggest winner is Washington, and then I think the Giants and Oakland did good things.
Even though with Washington they'd had other needs outside of quarterback?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, the thing with Washington is they've already seen the writing on the wall. They've had an aging quarterback in Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't say aging. He was young, obviously, but, he was just getting old, and they weren't able to draft around him and build a team, and then they didn't pay him. Now they have an aging quarterback, an old quarterback. Who did they just trade for? I forget. But the Alex Smith situation is dire. They don't know if he's going to play again. You see, so the thing with Washington is they're not playing for this year. I don't think they believe in their heart of hearts that the 2019 is their season and they're going to the Super Bowl. What Washington is doing is similar to maybe the Ravens did back in the day when they had the draft and they drafted Ogden and they drafted Ray Lewis. You go offense, you go defense. You get an impactful player on offense, you get an impactful player on defense. And everything seems to work itself out. Here's what the problem is with the Redskins that a lot of people forget. The Redskins cap situation has been terrible for maybe the last 7 or 8 years. If everybody remembers, I can't remember exactly what year that was. It might have been 10 years ago. There was an uncapped season. Or there was going into the season, there was an uncapped season. And Dallas and Washington took advantage of that by acquiring as much talent as you could possibly can, knowing that there was going to be a reinstatement of the cap. So at that point, Washington had totally destroyed their team cap, and they've been trying to tunnel their way out of that ever since. The Washington cap system has been terrible. It's been terrible for years. That's why, if you ever noticed, the last couple of years when they've acquired somebody, it's either been through the draft or through trade. They're big-time free agents. They're non-existent. They acquired Alex Smith through a trade. So Washington, what they're trying to do now is reset their cap. They're going to go cheaper, younger talent, and they're going to do it for 2 years until the Haskins is ready, until Sweat is in his second year already learning how to attack quarterbacks. And by the 2020 season, they're expecting to have enough cap space to do stuff like free agency and get guys around them. So I know Washington, they need a lot of other positions, but before the team that they're envisioning starts to play, they're going to get all the guys they need. Before Haskins starts to play, they're going to get linemen for Haskins. They're going to get wide receivers for him. They're going to do it through this draft, and they're going to do it through the next year's draft. So, yeah, I really do feel like what Washington did, because getting 2 guys that dropped, that should have gone higher, that are very talented and that's coming with a chip on their shoulder, you cannot quantify that extra little boost there.
Let me ask you about this, and then we'll kind of move on. Then we'll move on to the locals. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but Devin Bush out of Michigan, and if that name doesn't sound familiar, guys, he was the guy at the beginning of the Michigan State Michigan game, where in preseason warmups he took his cleats to the Michigan State logo and was just stomping on it and tearing it up and just tearing up the grass there on that logo. I feel like that's pretty disrespectful to come into someone else. And I get it. I get that it's like you're a rival and everything like that, and you think you have a right to vandalize a rival stadium. But at the same time, just from that incident, because I mean that went all around the sports world. ESPN had like a video about it and everything like that on the internet. So if you're not familiar with the name, you're most likely familiar with that incident. But the Steelers are a type of organization that sort of prides themselves on not having guys with big personalities or guys that have a history of doing something like that. I don't know what his off the field record is because he played for Michigan, but usually with those type of people though, like a Le'Veon Bell, Santonio Holmes, who their personalities get bigger than the Steelers logo, they end up trading them and getting rid of them and getting guys that have that team focus. So I'm kind of scratching my head at this pick right now.
Yeah, and I won't go as far as to say that you're probably overblowing that incident overall, but I understand where you're going with it. The Steelers are like character guys.
Like I said, I don't know what his record was off the field, but it just doesn't seem like the Steelers draft these kind of guys.
Right. They first of all, let's be real. If there's a top flight, golden, shiny linebacker in the draft and the Steelers need one, they're going to draft him. When the Steelers moved up and they said Devin Bush, nobody was surprised. They're like, well, they're the Steelers. I was actually sitting next to somebody. He said, well, they're the Steelers. So, and that was his exact words. Let me tell you something. And I hope that he is a model citizen. I do know Devin Bush. I'm an avid Ohio State fan. And I watch them play Michigan every year. I watch Michigan play as much as I can, Michigan State, Penn State. I watch those guys in the Big Ten because they're rivals of the team that I root for. Devin Bush is amazing. And let me say that again. He's amazing. Like, it's not a physical kind of thing. It's more of an instinct kind of thing. In fact, that the one football guy on defense is like, man, I don't know what we're going to run, because if you run anything within the first two levels, he's going to sniff it out. He has that kind of Ray Lewis, Lawrence Taylor mentality. Like, you're not fooling Devin Bush, and he's going to lay a hit on you. And the Steelers, more than anything else, they franchise history. The Steelers want to play physical defense. They want to play up front. They want guys who could tackle. They want rough guys, mean, nasty guys on the field. They want linebackers that can move and cover ground, and Devin Bush fits right into that mold of linebackers for the Steelers. And I don't think that overall he's been a problem for Michigan. That incident stands, by itself. But, like you said, the Steelers had these players. It really comes down to what he does in the NFL. The Steelers have had the Le'Veon Bells, suspended for, drug use or whatever, marijuana use, which is kind of stupid in today's day and age. But I understand it's against the rules. Santonio Holmes, obviously, Antonio Brown, more recently. If they act up in the NFL, of course the Steelers have been a franchise that known to just get rid of these guys. But it will come down to what Bush does now. Forget what he did or might have done in college or whatever. The Steelers moved up and knew that's what they wanted. I'm sure they'll run down what they expect from this young man. And I'm sure, just from what you hear from his head coach in college, he's a leader. He's the type of guy that the defense will love. So I'm sure that at the beginning anyway, that this guy will come in and try to prove himself to be a valid part of the Steelers organization and not give any problems. Going forward, I don't know.
Let's talk about the locals real quick, and I want to talk about DeAndre Baker to start this off before we get into the Falcons. What do you think about DeAndre Baker getting drafted to New York? And because I personally feel like that wherever he goes, he's going to be successful.
Yeah, he's amazing, right? And you watch this kid at the University of Georgia, and it's Baker Island, you know.
Right.
Darrell played for New York Jets, and they called it Revis Island.
I mean, he hadn't even been scored on since 2016.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah. And everybody's expecting him just to step right in. That's why when you asked me earlier, who did I like? The Giants moving back up to get him. I know the Giants fans, they were still a little salty over that Daniel Jones pick, but I don't think they know the two picks that they got at the end of the first round at 17 and at 30. I don't think they know what type of defensive upgrade they just got with Lawrence and Baker. Man, Baker is a guy that's going to be able to stop NFL wide receivers. It's going to come down to his due diligence and practice, obviously. But, I mean, he played in the SEC, and those guys got wide receivers. You know, those guys are busting out wide receivers and running backs who could catch and tight ends who could catch and quarterbacks who could fool a defense. This is not other conferences where it's like there's one good team and then the rest of the team suck. He's had to deal with the NFL type schedule when it comes to the type of wide receivers he's had to. You just think about this guy going up against Alabama receivers. You know, teams like LSU, teams that are known for bringing out wide receivers, and he's shutting them all down, man. The Giants moving up to get him was crazy. Like, I didn't think he would even fell that far, to be honest with you. But the Giants moving up to get that was a great pick by New York, man. They got a guy back there. When you're talking about the NFC East, you know, guys like Amari Cooper and I forget what the Eagles guys gave, Alshon Jeffries and all of these guys in the East. Whoever Washington decides to pick up, he's going to be able to shut them down. I don't see right now in the NFC East. I don't see a wide receiver that's breaking him for 6. That's just being honest, and that's the Giants division. So they'll play 6 times against those guys. I mean, maybe Amari Cooper, but he's not breaking DeAndre Baker. No, that's a great pick for the Giants.
Right.
Yeah.
A part of me wanted to see DeAndre Baker in a Falcons uniform.
Right. I really thought they were going to move back into the first round again. And then when they moved back in after he got picked, I was kind of shocked. Like, well, why,
Right.
Why didn't you do that before and get Baker?
Right.
That would have been great. But for some reason, the Falcons don't draft Georgia players.
Let me ask you this. Would I be fair to say whatever Thomas Dimitroff is smoking, that I want to have some of that? Would I be fair to say that?
Maybe you might not. It might be too good or too bad, depending on what position you're looking for. If we're gonna go into what the Falcons actually did, I kind of like it.
You kind of like it?
If I'm being real.
Okay.
I kind of like it. And I'm going to tell you why I kind of like it. If we looked at Atlanta last year, 3 things stood out to me. Matt Ryan had very little time to throw the football. Like, it's not very little time, but it was like the year before they went to the Super Bowl, the way how he looked behind that line that year. And that line was terrible this year in 2018. And the running game suffered because of it. Ryan, as good the numbers as he had, you can see that he was under a lot of pressure. I
get drafting an offensive line trying to get upgrades right there. But the thing that bothers me about this pick is that it's like I'm looking at like on CBS and this is their analytics that I'm going off of. Maybe some other people's analytics are better. Yeah, I get that. But just looking at like their rankings of their guards and everything like that, I would love to get Kobe. I would love to get Kobe Ford out of Oklahoma, or there's a kid, the Dalton Russer out of Kansas State. Both of them. Looking at this right now, both of them way more than this guy, and I don't know what their athleticism is like, but it's like just from this guy being from Boston College and Kobe being from Oklahoma, which had a really good offensive line, and then you have guys like from Kansas State. You also have Jawan Taylor from Florida. I don't know if he'd fit into that guard type of system, but it's like I just see the names of these colleges, and I know what they had to face. Like Kobe Ford at Oklahoma had to go up against Alabama's defensive line and did a decent job, in my opinion. So I just want to know what your thoughts about that is.
Now, are you talking about their pick at 14 or the one they moved back into this first round?
I'm talking about the pick at 14 first.
Okay.
Because that one had me scratching my head.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about the pick at 14 either. I definitely was a little lost at why they would go offensive line right
I just saw Boston College, and I was like, really?
Yeah, well, you can go that way, but it's, again, you said it comes down to analytics. Here's a problem I have with both of the Falcons picks, and I have a problem with them. Like I said, it was all right because the thinking that they have is great. You know what I'm saying? You get two offensive linemen. The biggest problem with the Falcons last year were the two lines, and I know there's some offensive and defensive linemen available in round 2, round 3 that could probably make a big difference. But it comes back to me again, like the Giants pick, and I guess the Giants have set the precedent in this draft. Why take a guy like this with an early pick, especially if you're going to now move back into the first round and get another guy on your line? Now, I have a problem with the Falcons because they didn't take any defensive players. If you were going to move up, why not move up and try to get Ed Oliver?
Right. Right.
Why
Absolutely.
not get a defensive guy at 14? And like you said, these guys, Jawan Taylor, for instance, still available right now. You could have gotten this guy in the second. You could have moved up into the second round. You see, the Falcons, I don't understand what Dimitroff is really doing for real. You've now gotten two guys that are on the offensive line, but they now have a first-round grade, which means they have a guaranteed contract for the next 4 years. That's no problem, except when you're trying to maneuver your salary cap for free agencies and stuff, wouldn't it have been a better idea to get one of these offensive linemen in, let's say, the second round, and then get one more like a blue-chip defensive lineman in the first round? Because there's got to be a guy you're going to eventually have to pay. He's already going to have a guaranteed contract in the first 4 years. He's going to get a fifth-year option that's going to be a boost. And if he's anything worth his salt, you're going to have to pay him. Now, like you said, there were a bunch of other offensive linemen available. I personally thought they could have waited till the second round to get an offensive lineman. I just don't think it was a need that they had to address in round 1 with all of these great pass rushers, with all of these great pass rushers that they had. I didn't think it was a need they had to do to get any lineman in round 1, and they ended up getting 2. So,
well, what do you think it is about just flashy? I mean, not necessarily flashy offensive players, but it always seems like Thomas Dimitroff wants to address the offensive side of the ball during the draft. He either drafts wide receivers, linemen, or just other personnel on offense in the first round. Why do you think that is?
Well, they did get Beasley a couple of years ago and then McKinley again. And I think this year specifically, they were trying to build the trenches. They were trying to go with the theme of the draft. They were trying to go, let's build in the trenches. The Ridley pick from last year to me was a great pick because I don't think you pass on a talent like that if he's there at that. This is why I don't understand why they're not trying to do something similar to that this year. You want to get an impact guy in the first round, not just a starter. The guy you get in the first round should be a Pro Bowler. He should be vying for all pro teams. These should be the next crop of great players in the NFL. And we all know that just doesn't happen. 15, maybe 16 of these guys might just be just starters. 8 of these guys will be quintessential Pro Bowlers, perennial Pro Bowlers, all pro guys. And there's going to be a bunch of these guys that just are garbage when they get to the NFL. They weren't worth the first round grade. So you never know which one you're drafting. You do every analytics. You got to get the thing. You got to go with what fits your team the best. And right now, the two guys that the Falcons got, you're not going to be able to automatically say they're paying dividends or not. Like, I don't want to call them safe picks, but at first, you're not going to be able to quantify how good they are until you start seeing Matt Ryan standing up for 4, 5, 6 seconds being able to deliver the ball, until you see whoever the running back is, whether it's Freeman or Ito Smith, with a big hole to bust through the line. So Atlanta, what they're trying to do is upgrade their team. I just thought they could have done it in a better way, because they need defensive line help as much as they need offensive line help, and they definitely need defensive back help as much as they need offensive line help. So to take 2 offensive linemen in the first round, I understand the thinking. I just think it was a bad way about doing it.
Let me ask you this, big picture.
Mm-hmm.
During the Super Bowl run the year in 2016, when the offense looked good, it was a fast break offense and you scored quickly like you saw in the Super Bowl. And do you feel like the Falcons in general, because they know, like, once it's good, it looks really good, but once it's terrible, it looks really bad. So do you think, like, they're trying to get back to that fast break type of offense?
Yeah, well, they're going to try to do everything in their power now to protect their $150 million investment in Matt Ryan, and they definitely want to do everything in their power to get the great Julio Jones the ball. So right now, they're doing everything they can to keep Matt Ryan upright for the twilight years of his career. And I think getting 2 offensive linemen just proves to the point where they've invested their money in Matt Ryan, and that's who they got their money on. So they're putting the 2 offensive linemen. I don't know if they're going to go fast-paced or whatever. I don't know if they can duplicate Shanahan's system with new offensive coordinator with the guy that used to be there. He's there now. Cutter. I don't know if they could. I don't know if Cutter. Yeah, Cutter. I don't know if Cutter could. He has his own type of fast-paced system. I don't know if Shanahan's system was so intricate. If you go back to the 2016, I'm sorry to go off topic, but realistically and truly, that's one of the biggest problems with Atlanta that they have. They have a revolving door as offensive coordinator.
Right, that is, yeah.
They've done everything in their power to keep Shanahan. You have the greatest offense in your franchise's history, the best offense in the league. Like, dude, pay that dude to stay as coordinator. Because guess what? If you still had Shanahan now, I doubt you would have had a losing season last year.
But then at the same time, it's hindsight is 50-50. Because the guy went off to be a head coach. He didn't go off to be another coordinator, so it's kind of just like he wants to see how good he's going to be.
Right, but that's what I mean. I think, what I'm saying is you can change all the personnel you want in Atlanta. You go ahead. You get all these offenses. You're never duplicating that offense from that year.
Right.
I think you have 0 chance of doing it. You can have a great offense.
Right.
You can average. To have a great offense in the NFL, you want to get up over 25 points a game. That's 3 touchdowns and two field goals. You get 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals in today's NFL, you're going to win a lot of games. Trust me, you're going to win a lot of games. There are not that many great teams in the league.
When you go back to the Shanahan thing, I think the only thing that was going to keep Shanahan in Atlanta was if they fired Dan Quinn and they made Shanahan the head coach. That was the only way, and that wasn't going to happen. That was unrealistic.
They could have made Shanahan assistant head coach and paid him like a head coach because he deserved that.
True.
He deserved. I don't think that in the end they tried to keep Shanahan there. I know everybody wants to be a head coach. You're an assistant coach. That's what you strive to be. And nobody remembers the assistant coach until he becomes a head coach somewhere else, unless he had like the greatest defense. Unless he was like Bill Belichick on Bill Parcells' staff in the '92 with Lawrence Taylor and them. Like, then it's like, yeah, that defense was Steve Spagnuolo Giants. Those defenses were great. So
let me ask you this then. Going forward,
do
you think the Falcons are going to draft some defensive linemen in the second round?
Well, I think they would have to. I don't think they have their second round pick anymore, because of the trade. So,
well, third round then.
Yeah, they should. They should, but now it becomes it goes back to why I didn't like them moving up to get a tackle at the end of the first round. Like you just keep your pick. Keep your pick. I know it's crazy that they actually needed 2 linemen on the offense, and they do. They need 2 offensive linemen, but man, one of those picks should have been a defensive lineman. Their defensive line is porous. With Grady Jarrett, that's probably their only reliable interior lineman. Are you going to get Vic Beasley from the Super Bowl year? Are you going to get Vic Beasley from last year? What's Takk McKinley going to give you? Like they have major problems up front, and then their linebackers were off injured last year. So, to quell that type of stuff, you want to get a guy that you just put right at the end or at outside linebacker that's just going to get after the quarterback and plug him in and, hey, double-digit sacks on the season. And a lot of these guys that went last night, they're going to do that, They're going to do that. It's almost like Atlanta dropped the ball by not getting a defensive end or an outside linebacker.
I mean, they had a lot of the media full that covers them full time. Like D. Orlando Ledbetter tweeted out a picture of a bobblehead of Ed Oliver on a horse, thinking that the Falcons were gonna get him at 14.
And I thought they were gonna move up to get Oliver. You know what I'm saying? I thought they were going to do what they had to do, move up to get Oliver. You got Ed Oliver and Grady Jarrett in the middle. Nobody's running on Atlanta. You think you're going to start by establishing the run versus the Falcons? Nobody's running on Atlanta if you had those 2 guys in the middle. I'm lost. That first one made me scratch my head, and then moving back into the second round, it made me scratch my head even more. No, I don't think that it was a terrible move, but they definitely needed different position players. Like, they definitely needed to address that line.
Right. Now, with the draft, it's always the first night is the most exciting night. With rolling out the red carpet, obviously you saw all Nashville pretty much was there on the main street, that broad street that they have there. Why should we watch the second and third round tonight? Because now that gets bumped to the ESPN2 channel on ESPN, just to show like there's not really a lot of interest in the second and third round.
Yeah, well, of course you got to watch these next couple of rounds. Come on, man. Like, just like we were talking about with the Falcons. Like, are the Falcons going to redeem themselves for the fans? Because the fans got what they wanted last year. They got all the hoopla. They got the time slot. You got the streets in Nashville filled with people. The spectacle on TV. That was all last night was about,
Right.
The guys in the green room. You see what I'm saying? The guys in the green room and the stories or whatever from their families. That was all what was last night about. These next 4 or 5, I'd say next 3 rounds, from rounds 2 to round 5, there are teams out there and they're looking for starters. Forget depth. They're looking for starters. They're looking for, they're looking for Kareem Hunt. They're looking for Tom Brady. They're looking for Richard Sherman, guys that were drafted outside of rounds 1, rounds 2, that became starters for years in this league. That's what the teams are looking for now. So a team like the Falcons, we're a local team, they're definitely going to have to do something as far as due diligence, the vetting system, finding out about the character of some of these guys and seeing why they're dropping, because there's always going to be talented guys that don't go in the first round. If you look at the big boys, their big board or whatever, there's 10 to what? There's 5 to 10 guys that probably had first round grades that didn't go in the first round. So this second round, especially at the beginning, you're definitely going to get first round grade talent. So we still haven't seen a lot of players. Greedy Williams, for instance, the cornerback, he's been gone. The same kid you talked about, Florida, Jawan Taylor. You're going to see a lot of guys, a couple of quarterbacks that were rated very high. They haven't been picked yet. So if you're rooting for your team is still trying to acquire starters in these next couple of rounds. This is not just, okay, well, the first round is over. We're just looking for depth now. No, they're still looking for starting wide receivers, starting running back. We didn't see the run on wide receivers go until the end of the first round. So there might be a heavy run on wide receivers to start, skill position plays overall, wide receivers, running back, cornerbacks. It might be a heavy run on them to start this next round because the first round is pretty much all interior guys. Even the receivers, there were 2 tight ends. There were 2 tight ends gone in the top 20. There was no receivers, no running back. So it's like everything that was drafted last night, they were inside. They were like, our team needed this guy. Tonight you'll see guys, little fan favorites from your school, guys that'll fill roles that will be exciting for your team, the kick returner, outside linebackers, wide receivers, so forth. So there are plenty of great players still left in the draft, and you definitely should tune in to see what your team's thinking is.
The one guy that's still on the board for quarterback, Will Grier.
I don't like any of them.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a starter if he gets drafted, obviously, but he's going to be a good backup, and he's going to turn into a good starter one of these years.
Will Grier.
I'm a little surprised he's still on the board.
I think he falls to the third round, and I think a team with an established quarterback. Yeah, I think because I just don't think his grade was high enough to even draft him in round 2. I think if you're a team that even likes him, he's probably there in round 3. You're not going to waste a round 2 pick on him. I think all the quarterbacks that got drafted last night were the quarterbacks that will be drafted until round 3 starts. I don't know that Locke or Grier or anybody else goes before round 3. I
don't think he's a lock right now, but I do think he's going to turn out to be a decent quarterback.
Yeah.
In the future.
What I'm saying, I meant Drew. I meant to say Drew Lock. I was saying Drew Lock. I don't think Lock, him, Grier, Will Grier, Drew Lock. I don't think any one of those guys are going until the third round is what I'm saying.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
I believe that those guys are going to be somebody's project. Like maybe how you drafted Kirk Cousins after drafting RG3 just for an insurance policy. I think I don't know whether it be the Steelers, whether it be New England, Green Bay, anybody with an established quarterback where you're not even thinking about him not being there. And the Falcons should even take a look at them. I know they need a lot of other stuff, but man, we were talking about it, man. If Matt Ryan goes down, who's their backup? Is it still Matt Schaub?
It'll be Matt Schaub.
They should probably try to address getting a younger backup quarterback at least. And a guy like Grier, he's probably going to serve that role at first. He's going to be somebody's backup, and he's probably going to get a chance to prove whether or not he can be a starter at some point. So right now for him, if I was him, I would be praying to get latched on to a great head coach. Like if you could latch on to a great head coach right now, somebody who could really train you and teach you. If he could get into a system like a Shanahan system as a backup, or obviously Belichick, he's known to develop these guys too. You can get into like that type of system, and you could sit for a year or 2 or 3. That might bode well for him, more so than him going to a team in dire need of a quarterback or a starter. Like,
well, if you
Miami.
If you look at it, though, too, with sitting, for some reason this day and age, people think that sitting is a bad thing. for a quarterback in the NFL, but if you looked at all the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls in this decade, all those guys sat for a couple of years, like Brady, Rodgers, until it was their opportunity.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to say that, but realistically, it comes down to the coach. I mean, Rodgers got Mike McCarthy. He wasn't even going to get drafted in the first round. He was falling all the way, and the Packers moved back in to get him. Like, you have to see it in these guys. You know, that Rodgers had to be coached and trained to be an NFL quarterback, to stand under center and throw the football out of the pocket. He was a single wing quarterback in college. You know, a lot of shotgun, mostly shotgun, predominantly not behind the center. So it was like, you have to see it in these guys. You got to see it in Tom Brady. You got to see a guy with the stature, with the arm strength, before played enough years at college. You know, and that's another thing. These guys are looking for guys with experience. Ideally, you want to have 25, 30 starts in college football before you play in the NFL. Those guys usually last longer. They have more instinct when it comes to pre-snap read and stuff like that. So if you haven't had that many starts in college, you definitely want to sit. You definitely want to sit the guy for a while and teach him something. So, you know, you definitely want to get a guy like Greer. He's going to have to sit for a year or two maybe, because I still think the first-round guys should sit for this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not going to be Kyler Murray.
I think the first-round guys should sit for this year. Like,
well, it's been great having you on, getting to talk about the draft. Where can we reach you on? Well, first of all, where can we check you out? Because you do a lot of NFL coverage for the 3-point conversion. And where else could we check you out on social media?
Yeah, well, again, I'm Ab Stanley, AB Stanley. I'm on Facebook under that name. I'm on Twitter under the same name, Ab Stanley, the 3-point conversion. And I'm on Twitter at Ab Stanley, @Strakt, STRAKT _Marino. And I'm on Instagram at Ab Stanley, the 3-point conversion. And you can read my articles and a lot of other great articles at the 3pointconversion.com. And you can check out the 3pointconversion.com on Facebook, social media, on all of the social media platforms, Instagram and Twitter.
I said it right? The 3-point conversion.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm glad I struggled with that at the beginning. But great to have you on, and you take care.
All right, man. Alex, thanks for having me on, man. You take it easy.
Stay on the line, okay?
All right. Yeah, I'm still here.
I had to do something that I really don't like doing on this doing this platform, but I mean, I somewhat produce my own show, and I have to give the rolling finger.
Okay.
To me, it's kind of like the middle finger because I hate cutting you off. But I feel like you're talking about Steph Curry and what's going on with his that he's sacrificing his salary for the team.
Oh, he was, not anymore. He got his money now.
Oh, he got his money now.
Yeah.
But still, like, Steph was one of those rare guys.
For sure.
Tom Brady's like that.
Right.
So.
LeBron James is not like that.
LeBron James is not like that.
Kevin Durant was like that.
Well,
he took less money for a shorter term, so that way they could re-sign some guys. So, yeah, buddy. I mean, thanks for letting me get my Dubs action in. And, I will tell you the Dubs connection to Atlanta.
What's that?
They call Trae Young the young Steph Curry.
There you go. Well, that's why they drafted him. And I hope he turns out to be that.
And that way he could do things like Steph.
Yeah.
Steph relentlessly.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So with that, we just want to thank Steve Choi for joining us. and giving his West Coast flavor to the show, because there's a lot of guys like Steve that live in the Atlanta area who are transplants. That's why I love having Steve on the show.
Right. I'm a transplant.
Right. I like your influence.
Gotcha. Stafford Leslie.
You know, I can see you being the next internet influencer.
Oh, no. I have bad things about influencers.
Okay. One guy said it's like why would you call a musician like an influencer on your ear?
Right.
So anyways, yeah, I just want to thank Ab Stanley for coming on the show as well, talking all things NFL draft. I almost wanted to say NBA draft. That was my dyslexia talking. But thank you thanks Ab for coming on the show. If you're listening, if you're out there. But to close this out, like I said before, to help us out, if you could like, subscribe, and comment on, we want to know from you guys. You can put whatever you want to put in the comment section. If you want to put it there, that's your choice. But we want to hear from you guys. Like, is the Georgia Tech spring game, is it going to be on TV tonight? Or what do you think of the way the Falcons drafted? Am I right in my assumptions of Thomas Dimitroff, and has he gone off the rails? So put that in the comment section, because we'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. And just remember to like, subscribe, comment if you so please. So I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. However you're listening to podcasts, thanks for tuning into ours. And hopefully we got you through traffic, gardening, the gym, whatever you're doing with podcasts. Like I said, I listen to podcasts when I'm traveling, when I'm on the go. So thanks for listening to us, however you're listening. And I hope that you have a good weekend. Take care of yourself. And hope that you'll listen to us on Monday.
Have a good one, folks.
So with that, episode 52 is out.